Imagine a life where fear doesn't set your limits. What if every challenge you face feels less like a burden and more like a step toward growth? Picture setbacks that don't discourage you, but instead guide you toward strength, clarity, and wisdom. Pause for a moment and imagine, what would your life look like if fear never stopped you, even once? How many dreams would already be alive? How many chances would you have taken? This thought alone shows the power fear holds and the even greater power you hold when you rise above it. In this new view, courage isn't a rare trait. It's something you have every day. Purpose flows easily into each decision you make. Obstacles change from barriers to stepping stones on your path to your best self. This change is completely possible. It all begins with one decision: to change how you see fear, to welcome challenges as teachers, and to approach each day with intention. Book Voice Studio invites you on a journey through 7 insightful chapters that will transform how you face the world and how you see yourself. With each step, you'll find tools to turn fear into focus, doubt into strength, and dreams into reality. The journey awaits you. So, are you ready to start this adventure? Every great journey begins with a single step, and this one begins with understanding fear itself. This is not just a book. This is a journey, a voice in your ear, a hand on your shoulder, a path opening before you. And it begins now. So, are you ready to dive into Chapter 1, Introduction and Understanding Fear? Fear is something we all experience as part of being human. Have you ever felt that tightness in your chest, that racing heartbeat, or that nagging little voice in your head saying, "You can't do this"? It's a feeling that crosses all boundaries. Age, culture, and background don't matter. This apprehension can take on many forms: the anxiety of failing, the dread of rejection, the unease of the unknown, or even the fear of success. And while we often see fear as a negative force, it's not always bad. In fact, fear is one of nature's oldest survival tools. It's there to protect us, to warn us of danger, and to keep us safe. Our ancestors relied on it to avoid predators and navigate risky landscapes. But in today's world, fear usually isn't about immediate physical threats. Instead, it creeps in quietly, influencing our choices, our actions, and even our ability to grow. Think about it. The worry of losing a job, the dread of being judged by others, or the nervousness of trying something new. These anxieties, subtle as they may be, steer the lives of countless people every single day. You might find yourself holding back from pursuing a dream, avoiding tough conversations, or even suppressing your true self, all because of this deep-seated hesitation. And while these modern fears may not look dangerous, they can shape the entire course of your life if you don't face them. Fear shows itself in 2 ways. There's the obvious kind, that shaky voice, trembling hands, the long pause before a big move. And then there's the hidden fear. That one's sneaky. It hides behind excuses, justifications, and endless overthinking. I'll get to it tomorrow. I'm just not ready yet. Maybe someone else could do it better. Sound familiar? These aren't harmless thoughts. They're fear in disguise, quietly preventing us from growing and moving forward. So the very first step to overcoming this apprehension: recognize it, name it, confront it directly. Fear comes in many shapes and sizes. The fear of failure, for example, it's probably the most common. And it's paralyzing. It tricks you into believing that one mistake is catastrophic, that a single misstep could ruin everything you've worked for. That dread keeps you from trying new things, from taking risks, from stepping out of your comfort zone. Then there's the fear of rejection, deeply tied to our human need for acceptance and belonging. The thought of being criticized or left out can spark intense anxiety. And that kind of fear keeps you from showing your true self, forming deeper connections, or speaking up when your voice really matters. And of course, the fear of the unknown, the unease that comes with stepping into unfamiliar territory. This one keeps people stuck in jobs they dislike, routines that don't fulfill them, or situations they've outgrown, because change just feels too overwhelming. But here's the shift. To truly understand this feeling, you have to see it not as an enemy, but as a signal, a kind of compass. It highlights where you can grow. It shows you where courage is needed. It points out where your mind is still clinging to old habits that don't serve you anymore. And the irony, the things that scare you the most often hold the greatest potential for growth and fulfillment. Think about it. The places you've avoided, the paths you've ignored, those often carry the very transformations you've been waiting for. Now, where do these fears come from? Most of them are learned, not natural. Childhood experiences, social expectations, negative events, all of these shape how we grow into our fears. A child criticized for speaking up might grow into an adult who dreads public speaking. Someone betrayed in the past may struggle to trust. And repeated failures, they can carve deep grooves into our minds, convincing us we're not capable even when we are. Sometimes fear even disguises itself as logic. It shows up as caution, practicality, and common sense. It whispers, "Don't risk it, be safe, play it smart." And while caution is good, fear distorts it. It exaggerates risks. It minimizes opportunities. Over time, it becomes a habit, a default mindset, one that quietly directs your decisions without you even realizing it. Now imagine this standing at a crossroads in their career. They've always dreamed of starting their own business, but suddenly, the voice of fear kicks in. What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if people laugh at me? Each thought is driven by fear, but each one is also a signal. It's pointing out the stakes. It's showing where courage is needed. And if that person recognizes it and decides to act anyway, that's the shift. That's moving from fear to courage. But fear doesn't just stop at thoughts. It can show up as self-sabotage too. You procrastinate, you avoid responsibilities, you make excuses, and deep down, it's fear pulling the strings. Fear convincing you you're not worthy of success. And here's the thing, this kind of behavior often has roots in childhood. But once you identify the patterns and understand them, you can start to replace them with small, intentional, brave actions. Another trap is comparison. In today's world with social media, competition, and perfectly polished lives, it's easy to feel behind. Easy to feel like you'll never measure up. And that dread can eat at you. But remember, your path is yours alone. Your anxieties are shaped by your story, not someone else's highlight reel. That's why mindfulness matters so much.
Step back. Observe your thoughts. Notice how your body reacts. Challenge your assumptions. When fear shows up, pause and ask, what am I really afraid of? Is this fear based in reality or just my imagination? What's the worst that could actually happen? This kind of reflection breaks fear's grip. One powerful tool is journaling. Write down your apprehensions, what triggered them, the thoughts and emotions that came with them. Over time, you'll spot patterns. You'll separate rational fears from habitual ones and from the ones you've made up yourself. Fear isn't something you can or should completely eliminate. It's part of being human. The goal isn't to live without it. It's to act even with fear in the room. Because true courage, it's not the absence of fear. It's knowing how to manage it. Every story of success, every transformation includes fear. The difference is some people act anyway. So here's what I want you to take away. Fear is not your enemy. It's your teacher. It shows you where to grow. It points out limiting beliefs, and it encourages you to rise above them. The journey from fear to confidence begins with recognition, with awareness, and with the decision to act. Fear is not a monster to run from. It's a mirror showing you exactly where growth is waiting. Tonight, write down one fear you've noticed today. Ask yourself, is this fear protecting me or preventing me?
Chapter 2: Root Causes of Fear. To really understand fear, we need to go deeper into its origins. Fear doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It usually comes from a mix of past experiences, deep-rooted beliefs, and influences buried in our subconscious. Think about it. The fears you face today, apprehension of failing, fear of rejection, discomfort with change, they often trace back to earlier moments in life. Childhood plays a huge role here. Kids absorb lessons from parents, teachers, friends, and the environment around them. When a child is constantly criticized, discouraged, or compared unfairly, a seed of fear is planted. And over time, that tiny seed grows quietly, shaping their choices and behaviors for years to come. Society also adds its weight. From the moment we're born, we're surrounded by social rules, cultural norms, and expectations. These often tell us what's safe and what's not. While some of this guidance helps, a lot of it, unintentionally, feeds our anxieties. We're taught to play it safe, blend in, and stick to conventional paths. Creativity gets stifled, ambitions shrink, and risk-taking starts to feel dangerous. For instance, so many people hold back from entrepreneurship simply because they've absorbed the message, stay stable, avoid failure at all costs. Over time, these messages make apprehension our default response. Trauma, failure, and rejection can deepen these fears even further. When someone experiences betrayal, humiliation, or heartbreak, it leaves scars that show up years later. Even tiny triggers can revive old fears, keeping the mind on alert, as if danger is always just around the corner. Imagine someone who went through a painful breakup in their 20s. Years later, they might hesitate to open up again, haunted by the dread of heartbreak. Or consider failures at work. They can reinforce harsh inner beliefs like, I'm not capable, I'll just fail again, or I can't handle this. These aren't just passing thoughts. They become powerful, invisible forces, shaping behavior.
Another big source of fear comes from within, through self-doubt and negative self-talk. Many of us carry around an inner critic, that voice that whispers, "You're not ready, you're not talented enough, you don't deserve this." Often this voice is built from childhood criticism, social comparisons, or past failures. The more we listen to it, the stronger apprehension grows. If someone keeps hearing, "You can't do that," they eventually believe it. These messages pile up over the years, creating a mental space where fear thrives. Failure itself is another tricky one. It often leaves a lasting mark, not because of what happened, but because of how we interpret it. For instance, if a student fails an exam, they might begin to believe they're not smart, even if it was just a bad day. That belief can linger for years, damaging confidence and making risks feel impossible. But here's the truth. Failure itself is neutral. It's our interpretation that creates fear. When we start seeing failures as lessons instead of judgments, fear begins to lose its grip. And then there's comparison. In today's world, with social media and endless displays of other people's success, comparison-driven fear is everywhere. We measure ourselves against carefully curated versions of others' lives. That fear of not being good enough, of falling behind, starts to take root. But here's the danger. Comparison distracts us from our own path. It shifts our focus from growth to competition. Recognizing that your journey is uniquely yours is one of the most powerful ways to weaken this fear. Uncertainty also fuels fear. As humans, we crave stability and control. When life throws us into the unknown, whether it's a promotion, a big move, or even a new opportunity, it can feel intimidating. The outcome is uncertain, and that uncertainty feels threatening. But here's the twist. Uncertainty is often a sign of growth. Fear usually peaks right at the edge of your comfort zone, and that's exactly where transformation happens. On a biological level, fear is hardwired into us. When the amygdala, the brain's threat detector, senses danger, it triggers the fight or flight response. Your heart races, adrenaline surges, focus sharpens. This response is vital when we're in real danger. But here's the catch. The brain doesn't always know the difference. A work presentation, a tough conversation, or a bold opportunity can all trigger the same physical response as a life or death threat. That's why understanding this process is so important. It helps us separate the mind's reaction from actual danger. Cultural conditioning adds yet another layer. In many societies, people are taught to avoid risks, pursue stability, and follow the rules. Anyone stepping off the safe path often faces judgment or ridicule. For instance, someone choosing an unconventional career might face skepticism from family or community. These external pressures can amplify internal fears, making risk-taking feel almost impossible. Overcoming this requires reflection and courage, choosing to define success and fulfillment on your own terms. And here's something people often forget. Fear thrives in silence. When we keep our fears hidden, they grow in the dark. But when we share them with friends, mentors, or supportive communities, they lose power. Talking about our fears allows us to see them more clearly, to analyze them logically, and to get support. Fear also shows up in subtle habits. Procrastination, overplanning, perfectionism, avoidance, all of these can be fear in disguise. A writer delaying their book out of fear of criticism, a professional avoiding networking out of fear of rejection. We often label these as waiting for the right time or being careful, but really they're just ways to avoid discomfort. Recognizing these patterns is key to breaking free. Here's the good news. Fear isn't fixed. It changes as we change. Depending on our mindset, our environment, and the choices we make, fear can shrink or expand. Exploring its roots, childhood experiences, social conditioning, failures, comparisons, uncertainty, even the brain's responses, gives us clarity. Suddenly, fear stops being this uncontrollable force. Instead, it becomes a guide, pointing towards areas where growth is possible. So by now, you can see, your fears aren't random. They have origins. They come from your past, from conditioning, from beliefs you've carried. And recognizing those origins is the first step to breaking free. Fear is not random. It has roots. Childhood, society, and personal pain plant seeds, but awareness and self-talk decide whether those seeds grow into walls or into lessons. But here's the thing. Awareness is just the beginning. Because once you've recognized those patterns, the real question is, what story are you telling yourself about them? In the next chapter, we'll dive into the power of rewriting your inner story and discover how a single shift in narrative can transform your entire life.
Chapter 3: Awareness and Mindfulness. Awareness is the foundation of transformation. To effectively handle fear, you first need to recognize it for what it is. Many people go through life reacting to fear without really understanding it. They feel it, try to avoid it, or even fight against it without a clear grasp of its patterns, triggers, and origins. Gaining awareness is the crucial first step to taking back control. It lets you pause, reflect, and make thoughtful decisions rather than just reacting automatically. When you build awareness, fear no longer lurks in the shadows. It becomes something you can see, understand, and manage. Now, one of the best ways to develop awareness is through mindfulness. Mindfulness involves observing your thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations without judgment. It means recognizing fear as it comes up, acknowledging it, and examining it calmly. For example, if fear arises before you speak in public, instead of avoiding it or telling yourself you can't do it, mindfulness encourages you to say, "I notice fear in my chest and mind. This is completely normal. Let me take a moment to observe it." By naming that feeling and realizing it's just a temporary state, you can lessen its hold and find the courage to act anyway. Journaling is another great way to increase your awareness. Writing down your thoughts and feelings brings fear into the light and makes it more concrete. A journal helps you spot patterns, recognize recurring triggers, and evaluate how fear shapes your actions. For instance, you might find that apprehension often appears when making career decisions or entering new relationships. By tracking these moments over time, you create a roadmap of your fear, showing both the obstacles you face and the chances for growth. This process of self-reflection is vital for turning fear into useful insights that you can act on. Reflection is key for building awareness. So when fear strikes, ask yourself tough questions. What am I really afraid of? Is this fear based in reality or just my imagination? What's the worst that could happen, and could I handle it? Reflecting this way helps you tell the difference between genuine concerns and irrational anxieties. More often than not, we find that our fears are exaggerated, tied to past experiences, or shaped by societal pressures. By questioning your fears, you regain control and lessen their hold on your life. Breathing exercises are another useful tool for changing fear through awareness.
When fear hits, it triggers our body's fight or flight response. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, and your mind fills with anxious thoughts. But conscious breathing can help. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, sending signals of safety to both your body and mind. For instance, taking slow, deep breaths when fear arises can calm your nervous system, allowing for clearer thinking and more thoughtful actions. Over time, combining mindfulness with controlled breathing can improve your ability to stay present and grounded, even under pressure. Visualization is another excellent method for enhancing awareness and calming fear. When you picture yourself successfully managing situations that make you anxious, it gives your mind a chance to practice bravery in a safe space. For example, if public speaking makes you nervous, imagine yourself confidently stepping onto the stage, delivering your speech clearly, and receiving enthusiastic applause. Your brain reacts to these visualizations much like it would to actual experiences, helping reduce anxiety and build confidence. When you blend visualization with mindfulness and reflection, you create a powerful toolkit for turning fear into actionable courage. Awareness also includes recognizing patterns of avoidance and procrastination. Fear often shows itself not as outright panic, but through subtle avoidance behaviors. You may find yourself delaying projects, over-planning, or getting distracted by trivial tasks. While these actions might seem like a way to protect yourself from discomfort, they actually reinforce fear over time. By observing these patterns without judgment, you can identify when fear is influencing your choices and start taking deliberate steps forward, even when it feels uncomfortable. Self-compassion is crucial for mindfulness and awareness. Many people confront fear with harsh self-criticism, thinking they shouldn't be afraid or must be tougher. This kind of judgment only increases fear and strengthens negative beliefs about themselves. Instead, try to see fear as a natural part of being human. Acknowledge it kindly. It's perfectly okay to feel fear. I'm learning and growing. Practicing self-compassion helps to ease resistance, allowing you to face fear without being overwhelmed by shame or self-judgment. Mindfulness also teaches us that fear isn't permanent. It comes and goes, rising to a peak before eventually fading away. By viewing fear as a temporary experience rather than a fixed reality, you can reduce its emotional grip on you. For example, if you feel anxious before a performance, remind yourself, this feeling won't last forever. I can still take action. Recognizing that fear is fleeting helps you keep perspective, respond thoughtfully, and stop fear from controlling your actions. Another important part of awareness is understanding how our thoughts, emotions, and actions are connected. Fear often begins as a thought, an imagined scenario, or a perceived threat. This thought triggers an emotional response, which then shapes how we act. By paying attention to each step in this process, you can consciously intervene. If you catch yourself having a fearful thought, questioning its validity can disrupt your automatic reaction. This mindful intervention is key to mastering fear. Observing, understanding, and responding with intention instead of reacting impulsively. You can easily incorporate reflection exercises into your daily routine to boost your awareness. Consider a daily check-in. Write down 3 times you felt fear. Describe how it felt physically and what thoughts crossed your mind, and note what actions you took. After that, think about how you might respond differently next time. Over weeks and months, this practice can deepen your understanding of your fear patterns, giving you a clear path for making conscious changes. Along with reflection and journaling, getting feedback from trusted mentors or peers can significantly enhance your awareness. Others often see blind spots in how we perceive our fears and offer insights that we might miss. For example, A mentor might help you realize that your fear of speaking up in meetings comes from an exaggerated fear of negative judgment, which can help you adjust your response. This external feedback complements your internal reflection, creating a well-rounded approach to building awareness. Awareness also includes recognizing patterns of avoidance and procrastination. Fear often shows itself, not as outright panic, but through subtle avoidance behaviors. You may find yourself delaying projects, over-planning, or getting distracted by trivial tasks. While these actions might seem like a way to protect yourself from discomfort, they actually reinforce fear over time. By observing these patterns without judgment, you can identify when fear is influencing your choices and start taking deliberate steps forward, even when it feels uncomfortable. Meditation is particularly effective for strengthening awareness because it trains your mind to observe without attachment. Even spending just 5 minutes a day can make a significant difference. During meditation, you might notice thoughts of inadequacy, anxiety, or imagined failures coming up. Instead of getting caught up in these thoughts, try to simply observe them, as if they were clouds floating by. This practice creates mental space, decreases your reactivity, and increases clarity. By combining meditation with journaling, reflection, and self-compassion, you can build a solid toolkit for mastering your fears. Awareness isn't a one-time effort. It's a lifelong journey. Fear will continue to show up in different ways as life changes, challenges arise, and your dreams expand. Each time fear appears, it's an opportunity for you to reflect, grow, and take mindful action. When you embrace awareness and mindfulness, you can transform fear from a hidden tyrant into a helpful guide,
showing you where you need courage, preparation, and resilience. With regular practice, awareness becomes second nature. You start to notice the early signs of fear, recognize its patterns, and respond intentionally. Before long, fear no longer calls the shots, and courage takes charge. Awareness and mindfulness lay the foundation for your journey from fear to fearlessness. So, what have we learned here? Awareness is your first weapon against fear. When you pause, breathe, and observe, fear begins to lose its power. You see it clearly. You recognize its tricks. And suddenly, you're no longer reacting. You're choosing. But awareness is only the beginning. Because once you see fear for what it is, the real question becomes, what story are you telling yourself about it? By the time you finish this section, you should see that by observing fear, understanding its patterns, and responding mindfully, you can shift fear from being a limiting force to a guide for your growth. That's where we go next. In Chapter 4, we'll dive into those inner narratives, the ones that either chain you down or set you free. Chapter 4, Rewriting Your Inner Story. The stories we tell ourselves greatly affect our life experiences. Fear often sneaks its way into those narratives we carry in our minds. Think about it. How many times have you caught yourself repeating lines of inadequacy, failure, or limitation? These tales aren't always rooted in reality. They usually come from past experiences, subtle conditioning, or imagined judgments. But here's the important part. Even though they may not be true, they still hold incredible power over our emotions, behaviors, and choices. If we want to transform fear into courage, we must pause
and take a closer look at these stories. We must examine them, challenge them, and ultimately rewrite them. Let me share Hannah's story with you. Hannah was a talented musician with big dreams of performing on stage. But throughout her life, she picked up little messages from teachers, peers, and experiences. Things like, "You're not ready. Others are better. Don't get your hopes up." Over time, those voices became her inner dialogue. Hannah began to tell herself, "I'm not good enough. If I try, I'll fail." And just like that, her story turned into one of self-doubt. But here's the twist. She really did have the talent and passion to succeed. What was holding her back wasn't her ability. It was the narrative she believed. Rewriting that story didn't happen overnight, but through daily affirmations, visualization, and slowly giving herself small opportunities to perform, she started replacing fear with confidence. Her journey is proof of how powerful it is when you change the dialogue inside your head. You need to notice those negative narratives fueling your apprehension. Listen carefully to your self-talk. What phrases do you hear when you feel hesitant or anxious? Maybe it's, "I can't do this," or "I'll never succeed." These repeated lines are like grooves in your brain, carving deeper and deeper each time they're played. Once you identify them, you're already beginning to take your power back. Now, journaling is one of the best tools for uncovering these hidden stories. Try this. Set aside a little time each day to write down your thoughts, especially during moments of struggle. Capture your emotional responses and the beliefs behind them. For instance, if you avoided applying for a job, ask yourself, what's really holding me back? How does it make me feel? What story am I telling myself about my abilities? Writing it down helps you separate what's real from what's imagined. Once those stories are on paper, it's time to challenge them. Ask yourself questions like, is this really true? Or, what actual evidence do I have for this belief? For example, maybe you thought, "I'll fail if I start a business." Now, ask, have I prepared for it? Have I learned anything that could help me succeed? Am I imagining the worst before it even happens? By questioning these beliefs, you weaken their grip and open the door to new possibilities. And here comes the next step, replacing those limiting beliefs with empowering affirmations. Affirmations aren't about pretending life is perfect. They're about aligning your inner voice with hope and resilience. Instead of "I will fail," you say, "I can learn from every challenge." Instead of "I'm not good enough," you say, "Every step I take is progress." Over time, this shift rewires your mind to expect growth instead of fear. Visualization is another powerful tool. Close your eyes and imagine yourself succeeding in the very situations that once filled you with dread. Picture your body feeling strong, your mind clear, and your heart filled with joy as you reach your goals. Remember, your brain often can't tell the difference between what's vividly imagined and what's real. So by rehearsing success in your mind, you train yourself to show up with courage in reality. Now, here's the key piece that many people overlook: self-compassion. You can't bully yourself into changing your inner story. If you try, you'll likely reinforce the very fear you're trying to escape. Instead, approach yourself with kindness and patience. Acknowledge your fears and mistakes without judgment, and gently remind yourself, "I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm capable." When you practice self-compassion, you soften the resistance that often blocks transformation. Of course, changing your story isn't something you do in isolation. The environment you surround yourself with matters. If you're around people who uplift you, encourage you, and see your potential, it becomes easier to reinforce your empowering story. But if you're surrounded by negativity and doubt, those old narratives can resurface quickly. Choose your influences wisely. Daily rituals can also keep your new story alive. Maybe you start your morning with a short journaling session, a few affirmations, or just a quiet moment of reflection. These small habits set the tone for the day, strengthening the pathways of confidence and courage. And don't forget, action is the most powerful reinforcement of all. You can't just think your way into a new story. You have to live it. Every small, courageous step you take is proof to yourself that the story is real. If fear has kept you from networking, then reaching out to just one person is a bold move forward. Each small action builds momentum. Here's an exercise you can try right now. Write a fear inventory. List your top 5 fears. For each one, write down the story you've been telling yourself. Then, rewrite it with a more empowering version. Finally, choose one small action that supports the new story. This is how you begin to turn theory into transformation. At its heart, rewriting your inner story is about authenticity, living in alignment with who you really are. Fear often comes from trying to meet others' expectations. But when you connect with your true values and purpose, fear begins to lose its power. You realize courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move forward in spite of it. And here's the truth. Rewriting your story isn't a one-time fix. It's a lifelong journey. Fear may show up in new forms as your life evolves. But with awareness, self-compassion, reflection, visualization, and action, you'll always have the tools to rise above it. Each time you face fear with your new narrative, your courage grows stronger. Think about this for a moment. Every word you whisper to yourself shapes the way you live. When you rewrite the story, you rewrite your reality. And fear? It starts to lose its script. But a new story alone isn't enough. To bring it to life, you need strength. You need action. You need the unshakable skills that help you rise again and again. So remember this. Your inner story shapes your reality. If it's filled with doubt and limitation, fear will thrive. But when you choose to fill it with hope, resilience, and growth, you unlock the power to live boldly. That's where we're headed. Chapter 5 is about building something deeper: courage and resilience. The twin forces that make you unstoppable, no matter how loud fear tries to scream.
Chapter 5. Building Courage and Resilience. Courage and resilience aren't traits you're born with. They're skills you can develop with intention, practice, and reflection. Fear is a normal human response, but courage is the choice to act even when you're scared. Resilience is your ability to recover, adapt, and grow stronger after facing challenges. When you blend the two, you forge a strong foundation for living a more confident life, ready to tackle uncertainty and reach your full potential. One of the most effective ways to build courage is through gradual exposure. Think of it like a workout for your mind. Just as muscles strengthen with training, your courage grows each time you face what makes you uneasy. For instance, if public speaking gives you anxiety, start small. Practice in front of a few friends, record yourself, or speak up in a low-stakes meeting. Each small victory builds confidence, diminishes fear, and fortifies the mental pathways associated with bravery.
Over time, this deliberate exposure empowers you to take on bigger challenges with greater ease. Resilience thrives when you adopt a growth mindset. The belief that setbacks and failures are chances to learn, not signs of weakness. Individuals with this perspective see fear as a valuable teacher and view obstacles as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. For example, if a new business venture doesn't go as planned, a resilient person might ask, "What can I learn from this?" instead of thinking, "I've failed." By seeing difficulties as constructive feedback, resilience helps you turn challenges into motivation for growth. Daily habits play a significant role in developing both courage and resilience. Your physical health, mental well-being, and emotional regulation directly affect how you confront fear. Regular exercise not only strengthens your body, but also boosts your mental toughness. Working out teaches persistence and patience, qualities that translate directly to mental fortitude. Practices like meditation, deep breathing, journaling can help you manage your emotions, enabling you to respond to fear with clarity and calm instead of panic or avoidance. Another helpful strategy for building courage is to seek out mentorship and social support. Being around people who embody fearlessness and resilience can inspire you, guide you, and offer constructive feedback. Mentors are invaluable when you're facing uncertainty. They can provide insights that lessen the grip of fear. Accountability partners keep you focused and ensure that fear doesn't prevent you from pursuing your goals. This social support boosts your bravery, transforming individual efforts into shared momentum for change. Now remember that resilience is not just about enduring tough times, it's about coming back stronger. Life will present challenges, loss, rejection, disappointment. These are inevitable parts of the journey. But resilient people see these experiences as opportunities for growth instead of reasons to back down. Think of Naomi, who poured her heart and soul into her new business, only to lose her biggest client unexpectedly. The hit was devastating, but instead of giving up, she took a week to reflect on what went wrong, sought honest feedback, and completely revamped her process. Within months, her business not only recovered, but thrived. The ability to bounce back, adjust, and grow is what truly defines resilience. Courage is also closely linked to your sense of purpose and core values. When your actions are in line with your deepest beliefs, fear usually loses its power. For example, a social activist may feel apprehension when standing up for injustice, but a strong sense of purpose, fighting for what's right, can overcome any hesitation. When your actions reflect your personal values, it adds meaning to the struggles you face, allowing you to see fear as something manageable or even motivating. By identifying what truly matters to you, you create a solid base for developing courage and resilience. Visualization and mental rehearsal are powerful tools for nurturing courage. Athletes and high achievers often picture their success before taking action. By imagining yourself confidently facing situations that scare you, you prepare your mind to respond with calmness and skill. And when you combine visualization with action, you create a positive cycle. Mental rehearsal builds courage, successful actions strengthen confidence, and over time, fear begins to diminish. With consistent practice, courage can become a natural response rather than something you have to force. Another key aspect of resilience is adaptability. Life is full of surprises, and challenges often arise when you least expect them. Resilient individuals embrace the unknown and adjust their strategies as circumstances change. An entrepreneur facing unanticipated market shifts might pivot, innovate, or explore new opportunities rather than giving in to fear. Being adaptable ensures that setbacks don't become permanent barriers, and that your resolve remains strong even as situations evolve. Daily reflection is another simple yet powerful practice that can enhance both courage and resilience. Each night, take a moment to consider the instances when you felt fear, the actions you took, and the lessons you learned. Celebrate your victories, no matter how small, and identify areas for improvement. This practice not only reinforces your progress, but also boosts your self-awareness and confidence. Over time, reflecting on your experiences fosters a habit of courageous action, making fear feel less daunting and resilience feel more natural. Courage and resilience flourish when we learn to view failure as a valuable teacher rather than a final defeat. Many people shy away from trying new things because they associate failure with inadequacy. But failure is a natural part of the growth process. Each setback offers valuable feedback, insights, and experiences. When you start to see failure as information rather than a mistake, you build resilience and weaken fear's hold. Many successful people credit their numerous failures as the very foundation of their strength, knowledge, and confidence. Another crucial step in building courage and resilience is taking time to celebrate your achievements. Too often, we focus only on what we have yet to achieve, allowing apprehension to overshadow our successes. But by recognizing and celebrating each act of bravery, you enhance your capacity to face challenges. Even small wins, like speaking up in a meeting, sharing an idea, or having a difficult conversation, send a powerful message to your brain that courage is attainable. Over time, these small victories accumulate, creating a strong foundation of confidence and resilience. It's essential to realize that courage and resilience are practices we develop throughout our lives. Fear will always find new ways to appear as we navigate life. Every challenge we encounter is an opportunity to access our courage, build our strength, and improve our resilience. By integrating daily habits like reflection, emotional awareness, mentorship, aligning with our purpose, visualization, and gradually confronting our fears, we create a solid base for living without fear. Instead of serving as a roadblock, fear can become a guide, leading us toward growth, opportunity, and transformation. With courage, you step forward. With resilience, you rise again. Together, they turn every setback into a stepping stone. And slowly, you begin to trust yourself in ways you never thought possible. But courage and resilience aren't meant to stay locked inside. They're meant to be lived every single day.
By the end of this section, you should recognize that courage and resilience are skills we can nurture. They come from intentional practice, thoughtful reflection, and consistent action. Through small steps, awareness of our emotions, purposeful choices, and celebrating our achievements, we can transform fear into a source of strength. So, in Chapter 6, we'll step into fearless living. Not a life without fear, but a life where you hold the reins and fear walks quietly beside you. Chapter 6. stepping into fearless living. Living fearlessly does not mean being free from fear. It means choosing to act with courage, resilience, and purpose, even when fear is present. Many people believe they must eliminate fear before they can pursue their dreams, but that's a misunderstanding. Fear is a natural part of life. In fact, it often signals that growth, change, and new opportunities are near. To live a more courageous life, you don't need to erase fear. You need to acknowledge it, understand its source, and then move forward anyway. It's about building a mindset where fear may influence your awareness, but it no longer controls your actions. One of the very first steps to embracing a fearless life is learning to accept uncertainty. Life is full of surprises. Trying to control everything is not only exhausting, it's unrealistic. Fear often arises when we cling too tightly to certainty and predictability. But when you recognize that uncertainty is simply part of the journey, you free yourself from the need for total control. And in that freedom, bold action becomes possible. Think about an entrepreneur launching a new business. They can't predict every obstacle, but by welcoming the unknown, they give themselves space to experiment, to learn, and to adapt without becoming paralyzed by fear. Another key to living a more courageous life is taking action rooted in purpose. When your actions are aligned with your deepest values and long-term goals, apprehension starts to lose its grip. Purpose brings clarity, fuels your motivation, and strengthens your resilience. Take an activist, for example. They may feel fear when speaking out against injustice, but their commitment to the cause gives them the strength to move through that fear. The same is true for personal goals. Whether you're writing a book, starting a business, or pursuing a passion, you must prioritize your purpose above your apprehension. When your purpose is clear, it becomes your inner guide, helping you take action even when fear is whispering in the background. Living courageously also means embracing discomfort. Growth almost never happens inside our comfort zones. Fear is often a signal that you are stretching your limits, learning, and stepping into new territory. Instead of running away from discomfort, see it as proof that transformation is happening. Think of public speaking, negotiating a raise, or tackling a challenging project. Each of these moments can feel uncomfortable, but when you lean into them, you build new skills and strengthen your confidence. And over time, what once felt overwhelming becomes completely manageable. Your mindset, of course, plays a central role in this courageous life. A resilient, growth-oriented mindset turns fear into opportunity. Those who live fearlessly don't see challenges as permanent roadblocks. They see setbacks as lessons, and uncertainty as a chance to create something new. Developing this mindset takes daily effort, reflection, journaling, meditation, affirmations, visualization. These practices strengthen your courage so that living fearlessly becomes your natural response instead of a rare exception. And let's not forget the power of social support. Living fearlessly is much easier when you're surrounded by people who lift you up, who challenge you, who inspire you. Having mentors, peers, and communities that embody courage normalizes risk-taking and encourages growth. On the other hand, staying in environments filled with doubt and limitation will keep you small. The company you keep can either nourish your fearlessness or weaken it. So choose wisely.
But remember this, living fearlessly isn't just about reflection or mindset. At some point, you have to act. Action is what weakens fear. Every brave step you take, whether it's sending that proposal, having that difficult conversation, or diving into that passion project, builds momentum. Each action proves to yourself that fear does not get the final say. Integrating fearlessness into daily life is an ongoing practice. Start your mornings with routines that set the tone. Reflection, visualization, setting intentions, and your evenings with reflection, celebrating small victories, and noticing areas for growth. These simple practices transform courage from an abstract concept into a lived reality. The more consistent you are, the easier it becomes to act with bravery, with less hesitation and less doubt. And here's a powerful perspective. Try welcoming the unknown with curiosity. Instead of seeing uncertainty as a threat, see it as an adventure. Curiosity shifts your focus away from the risks and towards the possibilities. When starting a business, learning a new skill, or trying something different, curiosity softens fear. It opens your mind to discovery instead of resistance. And finally, remember this. Fear isn't just in the mind, it's in the body. You feel it as tight muscles, a racing heartbeat, or shallow breathing. That's why connecting your mind and body is so powerful. Practices like yoga, breath work, exercise bring balance. They help you notice fear early, regulate it, and respond thoughtfully. Physical resilience supports mental resilience, and together, they help you face fear with calm strength. At the heart of fearless living are three things: courage, purpose, and resilience. Each courageous act reinforces your confidence. Each step toward your purpose strengthens your drive. Each challenge you overcome makes you more adaptable. Over time, fear loses its hold and empowerment becomes your natural state. But living fearlessly isn't just about you. The greatest courage often emerges when we live for something bigger than ourselves. When we mentor others, advocate for what matters, or share our gifts with the world. By moving beyond self-centered fear, you tap into deeper meaning, connection, and fulfillment. Courage becomes your way of life. Resilience flows naturally. Fear transforms from an obstacle into a guide. This is fearless living. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of courage. A choice to act, to grow, to live with authenticity, even while fear lingers in the background. So let's bring this together. Living courageously is not a one-time achievement. It's a conscious practice. It means embracing uncertainty, acting with purpose, building resilience, and taking consistent steps. It means making courage part of your daily rhythm. And it means seeing fear not as your enemy, but as a companion, pointing you toward growth. But before we end our journey, we need one final reflection, one last step to bring everything together. Chapter 7 is where we gather the lessons, the tools, and the insights, and learn how to weave them into the fabric of daily life.
Chapter 7: Conclusion, Key Takeaways, and Life Integration. As we come to the close of this journey, let's take a moment, together, to reflect on the principles we've uncovered. Fear isn't just an enemy that must be conquered. It's a signal, a teacher, a guide. When you recognize it, explore where it comes from, reshape your inner story, build your resilience, and take courageous steps forward, you discovered that you already hold the tools to live a life without limits. This transformation isn't just a theory, it's something you can apply every single day in your career, in your relationships, in your personal growth, and in the pursuit of your passions. One of the most powerful insights from this journey is awareness. Simply noticing when fear shows up is the very first step to mastering it. Awareness gives you that pause, the space to observe instead of react automatically. With practices like mindfulness, journaling, and reflection, you begin to see your emotional and mental patterns more clearly. And in that clarity, fear transforms from being an unseen enemy into something recognizable, something manageable, giving you the room to act with intention and bravery. Another essential lesson is the power of rewriting your inner narrative. The stories you tell yourself shape your reality. And let's be honest, fear loves to hide in stories of inadequacy, limitation, and self-doubt. But here's the truth. You can change the story. By recognizing those old scripts, questioning them, and replacing them with empowering beliefs, you open up a whole new way of living. Through affirmations, visualization, and daily reflection, this new story takes root. Over time, fear stops dictating your choices. Instead, it becomes a signal, pointing you toward growth and courage. And of course, we can't forget courage and resilience. Courage doesn't mean being without fear. It means acting even with fear standing beside you. Step by step, as you face your fears, your courage grows. And resilience? That's your ability to bounce back, to adapt, to become stronger with every challenge. When you see setbacks as lessons, failures as stepping stones, and life as an ongoing process of growth, you prepare yourself to meet the unknown with confidence. Living courageously is about aligning your actions with your values and your purpose. When your choices reflect what you truly believe in, fear begins to lose its grip. Purpose brings clarity, motivation, and values keep you steady when things get hard. When you act with both in mind, you cultivate courage that feels unshakable. Whether you're chasing a dream, making a career change, or simply standing up for what matters to you. To bring all of this into your life, it's about consistent practice. Daily, simple, consistent practice. Morning reflections, journaling, meditation, visualization, setting clear intentions. And in the evening, taking time to look back, celebrate your progress, and notice where you can grow. Add to this the power of mentors, supportive friends, accountability partners, and you'll notice how fear loses its power to control you. With time, these practices become second nature. One of the biggest takeaways is that fear isn't an obstacle to get rid of. It's a companion. It shows you where you can grow, what challenges you need to face, and which opportunities are calling you. When you lean into fear, when you pause, observe, and let it guide you, you turn it into a source of insight. Each time you face fear, you practice courage. You build resilience. You strengthen your inner story. And before long, what once felt overwhelming becomes something you can handle, something that actually empowers you. Living fearlessly also means being willing to sit with discomfort and uncertainty, with curiosity instead of resistance. Growth doesn't happen inside your comfort zone. Fear is often the sign that you're pushing your limits, learning new skills, and stepping into new territory. And when you meet that fear with curiosity, your perspective changes. Suddenly, instead of worrying about failure, you begin to see new possibilities. And here's something so important. Celebrate your progress. Every single small step matters. Each time you speak your truth, take a leap, or face a challenge, you're reinforcing your new story and strengthening your confidence. These wins, no matter how small, create momentum. They remind you of how far you've come and they fuel you to keep going. So, let's put it into practice. Here are a few steps you can carry with you. Set aside daily moments to notice your fears, your triggers, your reactions. Rewrite those old limiting stories and replace them with beliefs that empower you. Take small, intentional steps towards what scares you. Treat every setback as a lesson, every failure as a chance to grow. Clarify your values and make sure your actions align with them. Create simple rituals, reflection, meditation, visualization, affirmations that keep you centered. And meet uncertainty with curiosity. See it as an opportunity. And above all, celebrate your wins, no matter how small. Living courageously isn't about perfection. It's about consistency, about showing up, about making choices in line with your values again and again. With every action, every reflection, every practice, you reshape your life. Fear no longer holds you back. Instead, it guides you, showing you where to grow, what to face, and how to transform. And here we are, the end of our journey, but also the beginning of yours. We've seen that fear is not an enemy. It's a teacher, a compass, a mirror showing you where growth is waiting. When you recognize it, when you reshape your inner story, when you build courage, resilience, and choose to live fearlessly, you discover that the power was never outside of you. It was always within. Fear will still knock on your door, but now you know how to answer. With strength, with awareness, with action. So let me leave you with this. Every day, you stand at a crossroads. One path is ruled by hesitation, the other by courage. The choice is yours, always yours. If you found this journey inspiring and want more uplifting content, consider subscribing to Book Voice Studio and turning on notifications. Join us to ignite your courage, motivation, and personal growth with every story. Subscribe today and begin your journey towards a life filled with strength, purpose, and fearless living.